Dale Hurwitz, the MD of GSolutions, who's going to be talking about the strategic use of technology to enhance employee performance. And I think given the environment that we find ourselves in, this is going to be a crucial topic, as well as Jacques Du Plessis, how technology is shaping the HR space in the agriculture sector. So we're going to have a great show ahead of us. I've just noticed now I've got some technical glitches that I'm a little bit delayed, but fortunately you haven't missed any of the guests. So welcome if you haven't caught that part. And we're going to be talking to Dale Hurwitz, the MD of GSolutions, on the strategic use of technology to enhance employee productivity, as well as Jacques Du Plessis, how technology is shaping the HR space in the agriculture sector. So very exciting to have these guests on board. Let's get Dale on the line. Can you hear me getting him on the line? Let's see if we have Dale.
Hi, Brian.
Oh, hi there, Dale. Dale's with us, guys. How's it, Dale? How's it going?
Yeah, very good, thanks. Nice and cold and wet in Cape Town, but yeah, all's
good to hear. Standard Cape Town winter, eh?
Yeah, pretty typical.
Great. Well, at least you're getting rain, I guess. Dale, thank you very much for being on HR Celebrity today. You've got a great topic, the strategic use of technology to enhance employee productivity. So thank you very much for joining us. Before we get started with that, though, please tell us a little bit about GSolutions and yourself.
Sure. Well, I basically started GSolutions when I was at university days, back in 2003. And we're a full sphere sort of IT company providing an array of services to predominantly small to medium-sized businesses throughout South Africa. From your IT support and management right through to your infrastructure networking, and also on the ISP side, so cloud servers and cloud infrastructure, Office 365, fiber connectivity. And where we really differentiate ourselves is coming in as a single point of presence that can take accountability for our clients.
Maybe after this you can help me get my stream right. I seem to have a massive delay between it, so that was great.
I'm sure we could do something to help.
Dale, so the strategic use of technology to enhance employee productivity, obviously with everybody being away from work at the moment, nobody's being watched by the supervisor, by the manager. What are your suggestions to manage performance during a time like this where everybody's so scattered?
Well, I think one of the great things with the way technology's progressed and the current situation sort of expedited the implementation of it is there's some phenomenal tools around in terms of being able to collaborate, share information, communicate a lot more effectively. Obviously there are a few challenges that businesses always need to be cognizant of that. If you take, I don't want to go too much into any specific product or solutions, but if you take something like Microsoft Teams, out of the box it can work perfectly. And do a lot of what you need. But it's very important to set a foundation because you have your staff using a tool like that, for example, dropping documents in folders, and now all of a sudden everyone in the business, if you haven't set up the correct permissions, would have access to all that information. So, my thing is, what we look at for a lot of our clients is really to pick a tool and a strategy that works for you and your business, and your IT company that you work with, or if you've got an in-house department, should be able to guide you on that in terms of what would be the best fit for you, and then implement it properly. And then obviously you've got to manage communication around it. There's also, a lot of people use something like WhatsApp, which is a fantastic tool. I use it all the time. But from a business perspective, it poses challenges because if one of your employees are talking to one of your clients on WhatsApp, there's no record of it from a business perspective. And that is a really important thing to be cognizant of. If that employee falls ill or, might have to take leave of work for personal reasons.
Or, God forbid, in a business legal action. I suppose that's also a very real thing these days, that without correct documentation backing decisions and backing products and backing client services, I suppose legal action is a very real risk that a company can face.
Yeah, and exactly. And it comes down there's a lot to it, but most of these tools. So if you're using, for example, Microsoft Teams or even Google sort of Messenger, as a business, you can save those conversations. Same as using even like we're talking on video now. It's quite easy to.
I don't know if anybody should be saving my conversations on WhatsApp, Dale.
Yeah, you could try. Yeah. No, and another big thing as well is, go on this topic is to have consistent communication with your team, because obviously we are speaking about sort of managing the performance, and it can be disjointed because I love it when you're in an office and you overhear different conversations and you can collaborate on ideas. Obviously, in this sort of remote working sphere, that doesn't happen to the same extent anymore. A nice little idea that we've implemented in our team, it's been really successful, is we have our little morning coffee meeting. So sort of every morning at 8 o'clock, we jump onto a quick 5 to 10 minute video call, and we just discuss, what happened yesterday, what's planned for today. And as a team, we can actually collaborate around it rather than focusing on a specific issue, looking at broader matters with also a broader team involved in that conversation to stay more up to date with what's happening in the business.
It's your typical water cooler meeting, except you've created a formality to it.
Exactly.
Cool, Dale. So the next thing is companies were thrust into this really quickly. I mean, the work from home situation, obviously, we got given a week's notice before lockdown level 5. Maybe a little bit longer than that, and we all got sort of thrown into this, and having internet connectivity has been a vital part of that. And in terms of productivity, if somebody hasn't got the internet, it's basically impossible to communicate with them, for them to access the relevant servers and basically do their job. So what are your guidelines in terms of ensuring that connectivity with staff is maintained?
So in South Africa, because obviously you're pretty much looking at what we call home grade services, there's really 3 options available. So you'd have either fiber, LTE, or ADSL. Fiber to me would always be my first choice in terms of its performance and reliability. It is your best bet. LTE would probably be my second choice. But there are situations, it might not be good coverage for LTE or fiber in a certain area. So there needs to be a level of sort of flexibility when you're looking at it from your staff's perspective, and try and match what service would be best and what's most best available in their area. And it's also important to have a backup. So, for example, if you've got fiber, set up, and it could be something really simple. Set up your phone with a hotspot so that if your fiber goes down for any reason, at least you're not stranded. It might not be ideal as a long term, and the cost is a lot more expensive on 3G or LTE than it would on fiber, but at least you can carry on working in that instance.
100%, and obviously in some cases you just can't get these services around branches. I know we've got a branch in Sasolburg, and neither fiber nor LTE was even an option really, so a hotspot really was the only solution at a given time. We did manage to solve the problem though. What about the cost, Dale? So obviously everybody's going home, they're working from home in many cases, but obviously employees are saying, well, my data's costing me money, my system is costing me money, the company wants me to implement fiber, but DSTV is my preference. I'm just a joke. But you get the point. Cost is a factor to a lot of these solutions. Some employees can't afford the extra $600, whatever the price may be. So what is your advice around that?
So there's obviously, with home grade services, the great thing is that over the last couple of years, they have become a lot more cost effective. What we've also actually...
I'm clearly paying too much then.
What we've recently done with quite a few of our clients and advise them to consider is obviously, in a remote working scenario, connectivity is a requirement in order to complete the job. So what we're finding is generally works very well is, instead of the employee paying for their own connectivity out of their salary after tax, it's advisable actually for companies to look at paying for those staff members' connectivity, because it's a twofold benefit. The staff member can save on the tax because, if you say, for example, it's a 500 Rand connection and you deduct 500 Rand off that employee's salary, they will pay less tax as a result of earning less income, but they still have access to the service. On the other reverse side, the business can also claim the VAT back. So, that doesn't cost the business the full 500 Rand because they claim their 15% VAT back as a business expense. And from an employee side, as I said, they save on their disposable income, effectively their net salary after tax. So it actually becomes a win-win if companies do that. There are logistics around it and factors you have to consider, such as what if the employee leaves, company doesn't want to be stuck with the bill, but those are things that can be quite easily discussed and worked into sort of an agreement that can be signed by that employee.
I suppose a lot of ISPs these days also run a month-to-month kind of contract, so there wouldn't really be that challenge on a month-to-month basis, I suppose, but depending on what the solution is, I guess.
Absolutely, and I think it's also a great point that, because when you look at those sort of solutions, the technology landscape is evolving quite rapidly, especially with the deployment of fiber, and now obviously we're moving from sort of LTE or 4G to 5G. To be tied into a service in a longer term contract, I would always advise, if you can, and it is available, the option to look at rather going on a month-to-month type service that doesn't have long-term commitment.
Perfect. Didn't 5G cause the pandemic in the first place? Obviously, I'm joking. But on the subject of viruses and malware, hackers, we touched on it last week's show, where the guest spoke about the employee being the weakest link. But from a technology point of view, what can we do to safeguard ourselves against ransomware, hackers, malware, etc. in terms of, we're now running remote servers, which are a lot easier to penetrate, I'm guessing. I'm not the expert in this, you are.
So I think the important thing is to understand that every business and also every industry is different when you look at security. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk in the last sort of year and a half to 2 years around the POPI Act, so Protection of Personal Information Act. And it stipulates very clear guidelines for businesses in certain industries to comply with things like, for example, any data that resides in a computer has to be encrypted in case that data is accessed by someone maliciously. So obviously you've got to look at the business, and also the starting point is always to understand the risks. So your typical risks are things from security, losing data. So if you get a virus, you lose data. It's also the interruption to business and the time around it. So to understand the risks and then look at a solution, the absolute foundation is good antivirus or software. Well, the term antivirus actually become more sort of unified protection, or what we call cyber protection, because nowadays there's ransomware, viruses, malware, spyware. You've got a plethora of different potential threats. And having good software on each person's computer is the starting point. Obviously, it gets quite technical, so I'm not going to get into too much of the detail. But, setting up, for example, if you're accessing critical data on a company server, having a proper VPN into that server for security, or the modern version is now called SD-WAN, which is basically a software-controlled version of a VPN. So it has a lot more flexibility, which is great in this sort of current environment. So I definitely think, and there you can run a firewall in line with it. So at least then all your traffic is being monitored as a business.
Sure, Dale. To be honest, most of that's going over my head. in terms of these types of solutions, it's worth mentioning your email is in the description below. So if anybody wants more detail on that kind of stuff, I'm not going to ask you any more questions because the jargon's getting to me. But in terms of different solutions, so I mean, we had 365 implemented in our organizations, and we've got different solutions that you mentioned that you guys present. How do you, in a speedily manner, enable employees to be productive on these solutions? I know I'll just use 365 as an example. For me personally, I know it backs up my emails. Other than that, I have no difference between, and I know it offers project management tools and marketing tools and CRM tools and all sorts of stuff, but I don't use any of it. So what is your advice to ensure that companies, A, are getting the most out of their software, B, getting the most out of the employee, utilizing that software in a productive manner?
So I think it all comes down to training. You can implement the best system in the world. If no one knows how to use it, it's pretty useless. So very important part of the process is once you've implemented a tool, and even if it's at a relatively simplistic level, you don't have to necessarily be rolling out advanced functionality, but to run nice little short, and I much prefer doing shorter sessions around more specific topics. So, rather than do a 4-day session with you on Office 365 and how to do everything, which will probably end up flustering the average person.
It would fluster me. It would definitely fluster me.
Yeah, exactly. So, what are the best practices for having a video call? And run a nice little half an hour training session with the team in an engaged, collaborative manner. So, and then you focus on small bites. And as you roll out functionality, rather than trying to do it as a big bang approach, focus on little areas and then strategically work on enhancing that as you go along and as the needs sort of evolve from a business perspective. But it all comes down to training. And it's a very, very important part that's often overlooked.
So lastly then, Dale, so what is your number one tip for companies in terms of using technology to increase productivity? What's your number one?
I think the biggest thing here is really around collaboration. You've got an IT company that you work with, or you might have an in-house department. And it's about engaging with them as opposed to working in sort of a break-fix manner. A good internal department or outsourced company should be able to sit down, understand your simple requirements, and translate that into solutions that can actually work for you. Because what often happens is you end up in the break fix and you're always on the back foot. But when you can be proactive and say, hey, actually, I need to collaborate and work on the same document with 3 other staff members, now we can't sit in front of each other and discuss it. How do I do that? A simple conversation like that and collaboration like that can then be translated because, us in the technical world, we do. You get lost in jargon. And ultimately, it's really about driving a result and achieving. But
like you say, it's vital to have that interaction on some level either way. Without it, we can't be productive as an organization. I mean, an organization is built up of people. If the people can't interact, they're really just one-man independents. So
it's like HR in a way. If you take HR, a very good HR department or an HR person would understand the employees and work on understanding them and then putting in place the right system structures and processes to enable those employees from an HR perspective to deliver their best results. And technology is much the same.
Fantastic, Dale. We've taken enough of your time. I know you're very busy. Thank you very much for joining us today on HR Celebrity. If anybody wants to contact Dale, they can get hold of him on his email as put in the description. Dale, thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much for having me. And keep well through all of this.
Cool. I'll give you a shout when I need. I probably do need some technical advice, so I'll definitely be giving you a shout. Thanks so much.
Absolute pleasure. Have a great rest of your day.
So that was Dale Hurwitz from GSolutions. If anybody wants to contact him, his email address is available in the description below. Next up, we have Jacques Du Plessis from FarmTrace, who's going to be talking to us about how technology is shaping the HR space in the agricultural sector. Let us get Jacques on the line. See if we can get Jacques. And we have Jacques. Jacques, thank you very much for joining us today on HR Celebrity. Thanks a lot. How are you doing?
Oh, well. Hi, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Jacques, today you're going to be talking about how technology is shaping the space of HR in agriculture. And I think I'm actually so excited for this chat because I'm really keen. I mean, I've heard astronomical things about what's going on in the agri sector and at farms at large. And I'm really excited to hear what's happening. So maybe tell us a little bit about your industry as well as FarmTrace, and maybe a little bit about yourself.
Sure. FarmTrace essentially is a software business that we deliver services and solutions into the agri sector. And the agri being such a huge employer, I think it's fairly underestimated the value that the farming sector brings. I think recent data has shown that I think it's about 1.3 billion people are employed in the industry. And in South Africa, we're sitting close to 1 million people working in the agri sector.
Wow.
So we've identified that as an area where we could develop some solutions, solve some problems. And we really started with many different products or suites. And HR is one of them. I think we've developed a very nice HR package or module that fits very well in that industry.
So then what are the unique HR challenges in the agri sector? I mean, my understanding is I need my grapes picked. I go off to the local community in Stellenbosch as an example, and I get 50 guys and they come help me pick my grapes, and that's it. Am I completely off the mark? What is the?
No, I think you're 100% correct. That's the way it used to be. So if we look at the challenges that the industry faces currently, is one being corporatized. Your small farming businesses are actually falling by the wayside. We have fewer and fewer farms. The larger corporate farmers are getting bigger.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. It's been harder and harder for a small farmer to make ends meet in the last 10 years. Am I correct in saying that, Jacques? It's been very difficult for a small farmer.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. So if you do not farm on a corporate level, you can't compete. Everybody is trying to export their goods. If you want to be able to export, you need to have your processes in place, you have to have the people in place, systems, and you have to be compliant. And it's becoming more and more difficult for everybody to meet those compliance standards. And you have to capacitize your business. You have to have the right people. I don't think usually your example in the past. If you had to get your crop off the field, or you had to get your produce picked, you could throw people at the problem. It used to be quite cheap. Currently, we're sitting with the labour bill being in excess of 50% of the total cost on the farm. And with the minimum wage that's increasing every year, it's putting pressure on the bottom line.
Did the 3,800 Rand minimum wage impact the agri sector, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, so to give you a bit of background on that, in the past, farmers could pay for productivity quite easily. So if you had to get your grapes picked, you could set a rate of whatever you needed to pay per kilogram, and you could manage your cost on that front. Now with the minimum wage, the playing ground has changed slightly. You have to keep better record of how long people have been on the farm. You have to pay the minimum wage per hour. And if they're not productive, you don't get the productivity. it hits you on the bottom line.
Oh, yeah. So it's not you're not looking at productivity models. You're looking at minimum wage rates based on hour, and if it rains, you're stuck. As an example.
So if you think about, let's look at a 1,000-hectare citrus farm. You'll typically budget around 10 million rand to pick. You get the oranges off the trees.
Wow,
and you'll spend that number in a 4-month period. So it's big numbers, and if you can be 10% more efficient, you can save a lot of money.
Yeah, massive amounts. How can technology then solve this, and what technology are the guys currently using?
I think technology is enabling business process, and it starts with business process in my mind. All the farms are looking at automation, driving efficiencies. They need the ability to record and measure in real time. If you look at the example we used just on the picking of fruit, you want to be able to see on an hour-by-hour basis what each person is producing. So in order to take corrective steps, you need technology like the Internet of Things, IoT devices, that feed data into a larger dashboard where you can keep your finger on the pulse, see which teams are very productive, which teams are less productive, so you can take your corrective actions on the day. And I think that's where technology really assisting the farmers to drive efficiency.
I mean, I've run into a couple of farmers over the years. Am I correct in saying, you can whittle it down seed per grape on a grape farm? I mean, you could say this seed is going to produce this amount of grapes within a certain time frame, literally per grape. I mean, it's gotten so technical, which I think, for anybody who's watching, if you can imagine that I'm planting a seed today and I can tell you exactly how many grapes to the single grape it's going to produce within the next year or two. That just blew my mind when I heard that, to be honest.
No, absolutely. I think other technologies like robotics are coming into play into this market as well. Drone technology, fruit that are picked goes through a sorting and grading process, and that's all done by machine, or actually done by robots. The oranges that get exported have up to 30 photographs taken of each and every single orange to class, grade, look at the quality defects, and all that happens on the farm. So that the tech that your large corporate farmers are using and buying is expensive.
I suppose hydroponics and water maximizing technologies also come into that play. It's such an exciting space from a technology point of view. To be honest, it's really quite crazy what I've heard is going on in the farming industry.
Yes, yeah, I think, and that's where it becomes tricky for the farmer. You have to be a business owner. You have to understand. How to plant and pick. You have to understand your international market. You have to understand the HR role that you play.
So on that note, how is all of this changing the HR space in these environments? How is HR being affected? I mean, obviously we're on the HR celebrity, so I do want to. It's crazy, mind-blowing what's going on in the farming space. But specific to HR, how is all of this changing that specific element of the agricultural sector?
Sure. I think the access to information is really what's key. Having information available at your fingertips. In the agri sector, you've got a very short season. So within a 4-month period, you're going to probably go from, sometimes you've got 20 full-time or 50 full-time employees. You're going to ramp that up to 2,500 employees for a 4-month period. So you need to be able to take the employee life cycle and optimize the touch points from your recruitment, your onboarding process. It has to be very sharp. You have to make sure that you employ the best people every season, You have to make sure that your remuneration processes are sound and you can keep your good people and reward them for good productivity. But you must also be able to identify your poor performers and be able to have a process in place where you can really work with those people through your training department to upskill and get those people productive as quickly as possible, or alternatively be able to exit them as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I mean, reality. What do you think the future holds in this industry? What's coming? What's coming next?
Look, the industry is really growing. More and more hectares are being planted every year. Everybody's driving optimization and automation, trying to drive down costs. We, as a country, is very competitive in the export market, and we would like to really stay there. I think our HR specialists in this industry will have to think out of the box, be innovative, and I think there's a lot of opportunity coming. I think with our expertise in the industry, there's opportunities to outsource some of our labor force into different markets in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
You can have a very good picking team in South Africa. Only going to use them for 4 months, but there might be opportunities in the Northern Hemisphere to go and pick berries.
Admittedly, I have come across a couple of companies that are sort of driving that functionality specifically in North America, where they're bringing in teams specifically for the purpose of farm production, utilizing local people, which is kind of exciting. Obviously, saving on costs, but giving people an experience as well, which I think is great.
Yeah, I think there are many opportunities out there. Technology is certainly assisting and helping to unearth some of those. But I think it's still a human element. You still need that, and that's the nice thing about HR is the personal touch and the human element still there. And I think there's some exciting stuff coming. If we look at what's happening in South America at the moment, or even in Europe, the innovation is tremendous. I think things are just going to speed up, and it's going to be great.
I suppose one of the challenges maybe for HR / the training team is there a risk, and maybe this is a fear for a lot of people, but is there a risk of the technology taking over from the people element if the people element isn't at the level that is kind of expected from the farmers themselves? So in other words, we need to ensure that by training our people correctly, that they're delivering on the goods at an affordable rate, but at an efficient rate as well. Otherwise, farmers, I suppose, will look for solutions in terms of, like you say, drone technology. I'm sure it's going to get to a point where it can go pick an orange for you, as an example.
Yeah, I think you're 100% correct in focusing on efficiency and productivity. I think a lot of work is going into automation and trying to get the human element down to. I think what everybody wants to do is you want to limit your risk, and because you're working with a perishable product, labor becomes an issue when there's labor action. You only have a small window to really take those oranges off the trees, and it can really hurt you. So everybody's definitely looking at it, and I think that's an area where your HR practitioners can really play their part in educating the workforce. I think that's a real risk.
Jacques, thank you very much for your time. I think we've run out of time, but and I know you are crazy busy. If anybody wants to get hold of you, your email is in the description below. I know you've got so many stories and so much knowledge around the farming and agricultural sector. So if there's a small farmer out there or a large farmer or conglomerate, and they want to contact you and FarmTrace, they can get your email in the description below. But Jacques, very insightful. Farming is such an exciting industry at the moment, and I'm quite excited to see where it goes in the next 10 years, because I think technology seems to be flying at the moment in that space. So thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Brian.
Perfect. Thanks, Aj.
That's fine.
That was Jacques Du Plessis from FarmTrace. If anybody wants to get hold of him, again, his email is in the description below. And guys, that draws us to the end of our show. I hope it's been educational. I hope it's been informative. As mentioned before, the whole point of this channel is to build a community of people that are in the HR space, within business, and enable education within our area of expertise, and to showcase businesses and professionals that are doing something different. And they can help businesses to run better. Guys, we run every Thursday at 3 o'clock. Please hit that subscribe button. There it is. Subscribe button. And join us so that you can be notified and you can join us for the next show interview. We've got some great guests next week. We've got a very senior HR executive lined up, as well as a very interesting facilitator. So please join us for next week's show, and otherwise have a fantastic week ahead, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you very much again, guys, and have a good week. And I am out of here.